a lot and adopts a cross-sectoral approach in its work in engaging with the communities in Odisha. In your experience, what are those gaps that philanthropy can really help catalyze without substituting the state?
I think Anupama already mentioned we're not here to substitute anyone, we're actually here to augment the state. Certainly the state, and for that matter even CSR funds, have their limitations in how they can operate. And that is the gap that philanthropy should really fill up. If I put it in context, the point is that philanthropy is the risk capital that we can use. Now when we are looking at an early idea and we don't know if it's going to work, it is not something that is going to become policy. So clearly philanthropy should use its capital to look at early stage ideas, look at innovation labs, look at creating that proof of concept across anything that say you understand or are passionate about. And once you have that proof of concept, you can then take that idea to the government to say, now we have figured out this works, we can scale it up. That is one. The second is, in terms of the long-term funding and trust-based philanthropy. When you're looking at working at that grassroots level and you're looking to figure out what brings about the transformation that you talked about, because we are not talking about let's give something to somebody, let's feed them for the day, and that is what it is. We are looking at bringing about, as I said, we look at the community as co-creators of their futures. That will happen when we teach them how to take, to capacitate them and have agency to build their own futures.
Is there an aha moment that you can, take us to, which made you realize that the real opportunity lies not just in running parallel programs, but strengthening existing systems?
So my journey started with doing remedial work for schools because I came from the preconception that I can do something that the government is not doing and I can do it better. My aha moment, now we work presently we work in schools and we work with panchayats, because through the panchayats we reach the parents, giving them, empowering them to do what they can do with their children. So putting the child in the center and the teacher and the parent as the main stakeholders, we work with both. So my aha moment was when I attended a Gram Panchayat meeting, incognito, and it was being facilitated by our team. And there was the Pradhan, there were all the stakeholders, all the ward members, etc. were supposed to be in a panchayat. This was one of the first panchayat meetings which was being held in the proper way in that village. And in that meeting, we had the data of what the schools of that area needed. And on that day, the Pradhan committed 2 playgrounds, the repairing of the school, the functioning of the toilets, a boundary wall being made because there were animals coming into the schools and the kids were being endangered. On that day, 3 schools' infrastructure came up to the level of a good school without me spending even a rupee on it. All our organization did was to bring together the stakeholders for which these things mattered, and the decisions were made, the work was done, the money of the government was used well, and afterwards whenever we visited those schools, not only have those things been done, but they are also maintained, which is such a great challenge in the rural areas, because people keep giving things, but whether they are actually used or not always depends on the ownership of the people who are using them. And the panchayat unlocks that key. The government has all the policies, we just need to implement them well, and that's my strong belief.
Foundational literacy now, we've been doing this work in the last 30 years? 30 years, yeah. If I may ask you, for someone who's, let's say, not in the education space, and if you were to explain the importance of foundational literacy using just one story, what would that story be?
let me just tell you one thing, that when children go to school, I'll just start with this, children go to school, the good readers become good, better over the years, and the poor reader becomes worse over the years. The gap only increases. So keeping that in mind, I was once trying to find the problem that why are my students not getting employment. I started doing some research and visited schools across Uttar Pradesh. And I was in this school in Bareilly in a classroom, and I just said, "Beta, kuch padho, read what's written in a textbook." And there was absolute silence. And then I said, "Kaun padhega? Who's going to read?" And then the teacher who was standing next to me shouted out one name and said, "You read." And the child got up, and obviously that was the best reader in the class. And they got up, and she was reading very slowly, feebly. I could barely hear her. Right? That comes from a lack of confidence. That means she was reading by rote. Then I asked a question, a comprehension question, which was very basic. Nobody was able to answer. I realized that our education was imparted by rote. Right? They were coming to school, but they were not learning anything. And hence the advent of the program that we did. But let me tell you that last year, we had a couple of children with our donors, and they were interacting with them. And the donor asked them, and they were in an environment that was absolutely alien to them. They were in a very formal environment in an office space. And one of the donors asked them, what do you want to become when you grow up? So somebody said, IS officer, doctor. One little girl said, I want to be a police. I want to be in the police. And that donor at the end of the meeting said, "Oh, I'm very scared of you because you are going to be in the police, or you're wanting to be in the police." And instantly the girl said, "But why? Only a thief should be scared of me." So it was so brilliant because that's what we're teaching, higher order critical thinking, which is a way of life for you. Free expression without fear becomes a way of life for you. Reading with comprehension becomes a way of life for you. And once that becomes a way of life for you, you will be employed because you will go beyond your resume. You will be able to take those discussions, those interviews. You will appear as a person who's trained well. So that's where we are, that's one. So this is why my focus is on foundation literacy, because it is the basis of everything. And also now our policymakers have acknowledged it. The NEP 2020 says that if we fail at the foundation literacy level, we don't strengthen it, the entire policy is redundant. So they do acknowledge it, but we are still not there. We've got a long way to go.
We have a long way to go.
Radhika, if I may add, I think it's basically about the early years. Okay? You can look at health, you can look at education, you can look at mindset building. Let's take all these three. Now, I won't stress on education because Jayashree's told us enough. But look at this newborn. They need the immunization, they need the right nutrition, they need to have the right things. That is again early years. Look at the fact that the mindset, if you want to talk about changing a mindset of patriarchy where the girls are denied their equal opportunity, it's going to be working with the young boys. So everything is actually about early years intervention. And that is why when we work, and because we have that proximity to the ground, we look at that convergence.